Alrighty, we might get underway. I don't want to take up for you guys this evening too much. So thank you all for joining us. For those of you who don't know, my name is Samantha Hill. I'm the Rural Health Careers Coordinator for Hauora Taiwhenua, the Rural Health Network. And tonight we have Jay with us, who is a third-year midwifery student. So they're going to kindly present to us a little bit what it's like studying midwifery and answer some of our submitted and live questions just about the degree and the career. We've had a few of these webinars over the week and we've got one more day. So some of you may have registered for multiple ones, but we just hope that these chats will let you gain some new information and a bit of confidence as well about studying health. So firstly, a little bit about how the session will run. Jay will present some information about their degree. They've got a presentation, and this will take about 10 to 15 minutes. We'll then open for a Q&A. We have had some questions submitted through our registration form previously. However, if you do have any live questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. I'll keep an eye on them and I can read them out on your behalf. And then Jay will try to answer them to the best of her ability. I will say as well, Jay is on call as well as a midwife. So if we have something need to stop for that, that will be just a part of the story. And I'm sure she'll explain a little bit about that in her presentation as well. If you can stay muted throughout the presentation, this will just ensure that we don't have any background noise that might interrupt. Otherwise, we might get underway and get started. Jay, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, all. I will just start sharing my screen, possibly. Yes, we can see that. Excellent. All right, so welcome to tonight. I'm Jay. I'm a final year midwifery student at Otago Polytechnic based out of Papeoia or Palmerston North. I grew up in rural settings around the world in Indonesia, the Philippines, Kenya, all sorts of weird places. So I have done the rural thing in all sorts of very poor settings, and it was an amazing way to grow up. It made me learn a whole lot about what the world looks like. So, I'm a midwifery student. Midwifery is offered by 5 schools in New Zealand. AUT covers Auckland, Northland, and Taranaki. Wintec covers the rest of the Upper North Island. Vic Uni is middle of Wellington, just kind of covers Wellington. Ara covers the north of the South Island from South Canterbury on up to Nelson Marlborough. And Otago Polytechnic does the south of the South Island and the south of the North Island, because of course they do. Makes complete sense. Midwives are primary care practitioners, so we may be the only person that a mama and her pepe see between the day they find out they're pregnant and 6 weeks after they're born. We manage their antenatal care, we prescribe medicines, we manage their labour and birth and look after them at home or in the hospital or in a primary birthing unit. And we look after them for 6 weeks after they're born, make sure that baby's growing and developing the way that we want, and then we say goodbye to them. So that's a lead maternity carer role, following them all the way through. The other role that exists is the core midwife role. So these are the people that staff hospitals and primary birthing units, and they kind of provide support to LMCs and look after women who've got complications that mean that they need extra support. So it's a huge role, and it's honestly the most amazing job that I could imagine. What does the study look like? So it's a 4-year degree, but over the past 10 years or so, it has been offered as a 4-year degree smashed into 3 years. So I've done the 3-year path, but beginning next year, I believe all 5 schools are going to a 4-year degree structure. So I can't tell you exactly what that looks like because I've done the 3-year, but I've got kind of an idea of what it might look like. So your first year, loads and loads of theory, a few practical hours. Second and third year, you're doing about 50-50 practical and theory. Final year, you do 1,300 practical hours split over about 35 weeks. It averages out to like 35, 40 hours a week. And there's a tiny wee bit of theory, but not a whole lot. Now, some schools, primarily AUT and Victoria, offer in-person lectures. So you go into uni, you have your lecture, you go home. Ara, Wintec, and OP mostly have your lectures online. So you sit there in your pajama pants and a proper t-shirt to make it look like you're not wearing your pajama pants. And you have your lecture online. You can ask questions. It's very much like this is now. And then you'll have a weekly small group hui with in your local area with people who are also at your year level in the degree. So like here in Papaoia, we had 2 huis of first year students and generally 1 or 2 of second year students. And then in your final year, you have a midwife mentor who you meet with every couple of weeks. Your early years, first and second, probably third year, have exams and assignments coming out your ears. You are so busy. But final year, they're like, actually, you're so busy doing practical stuff that you've got no exams, you've got maybe 2 or 3 assignments tops, but you've got the state exam. And if you don't pass the state exam, which is not set by the schools, it's set by the Midwifery Council, you don't pass that, you don't get to be a midwife. So it's one exam, but it's pretty high stakes. What are your time commitments going to look like in first year? So this is the model used by the Polytechs, Otago, Ara, and Wintec. I can't answer a whole lot about AUT and Vic because I did study at AUT for a year, but that was a while ago now. So you'll do, for Otago, you do 1 orientation week in Dunedin. Ara, you would do it in Christchurch. Wintec, you would do it in Hamilton. You've got 2 to 3 1.5 hour online lectures every week. You've got 1 3 to 4 hour hui akonga, so hui, a meeting of students, and that's in your local area. So like this year, there've been some in Palmerston North, some in Levin, some in Whanganui in the Manawatu Whanganui area, for example. There'll be 5 1-week long wānanga, which for Otago, you can attend at Porirua or Dunedin. Ara, you would do it at Christchurch, and Wintec, you would do it at Hamilton. You do 21 8-hour shifts at your local hospital. And this is where you start consolidating your skills. You start figuring out how to put into practice all the stuff that you've learned. And then you'll have 5 women who you will follow through their pregnancy. So you will go to all of their antenatal appointments. If they're kind enough to invite you to their birth, you'll go to their birth. And you'll follow them all the way through the postnatal period. And this is just kind of getting a feel for what pregnancy looks like and what midwifery care looks like from the woman's perspective. I'm not going to go into the time commitments in second and third year, but if you have any questions about it, please do ask. Oh, sorry, I tell a lie. I'll go a little bit into it. So, second year, 24 hospital shifts, 2 weeks full-time with a local midwife, 6 women to follow through. Third year, 5 weeks of hospital shifts, 5 weeks of rural placement. So you'll go somewhere like Taihape or Taumaranui or Gore, all sorts of the little places. You do 14 weeks long placement with a midwife where you are on call for all of those 14 weeks. And then you'll do 9 weeks of elective, which is either hospital placement or a midwife placement, depending on what you choose. So you're at NCEA level. What's going to help you? You need sciences and you need English or English-rich subjects. So level 2, you need your basic numeracy and literacy credits that everyone needs to get. At level 2, you need 16 credits in chemistry and physics, 16 in biology, and 16 in one other subject. At third year, you need 18 in biology or chemistry or physics, 16 in an English-rich subject like English or geography or history or classics or, anything that makes you write essays, and 16 from each of 2 other subjects. So that is what you must achieve in order to get into midwifery. But wait, I didn't study those things. What do I do? So if you didn't get enough credits in a subject, or if you didn't do the right subjects, don't panic. I know for Otago, the course that you're looking for is called the Health Bridging Certificate, which gives you a grounding in the biology you need and the study skills. And it's a really, really great way to make the step between high school and university. If you're not super sure of how to succeed really well, it gives you a really good grounding in all of that. And all of the other institutions have a certificate of some sort that will do the same thing. I just don't know what they're all called. So what's it like? Midwifery is an incredibly special degree because you can study it from anywhere in Aotearoa. You don't need to go to university. University comes to you. Some people will choose to go to university to do it, but it's also possible to do it from your hometown, no matter where you live, in your pajama pants. Well, for lectures, you can be in your pajama pants. Please don't turn up to hui in pajama pants. Midwifery students work very hard, especially if you do a 4-year degree in 3 years. But we also form lifelong bonds with the people we study with, and we learn skills that save lives. It's honestly just the most amazing thing to do. And if you're passionate about women and whānau and babies and watching families grow, then it is just such a cool thing to do. Would you consider a career in rural health? We need midwives in rural areas. We need you to be able to look after mama and Pepe who are an hour from the hospital and are going to need care right now. It's rewarding, it's fulfilling, and it's amazing. Thank you. Have we got any questions? I'll just get rid of this.
Thank you so much, Jay. That was an awesome presentation and really gives a good insight to what a day in the life really looks like as a midwifery student. And knowing that you might possibly be in pajama pants right now, that's also a good insight as well.
I've just come from clinic. I'm not in pajama pants currently.
Awesome. If anyone does have any questions, feel free to put them in the group chat. Otherwise, if you don't mind, we did have some questions from our online as well. We have one already from our live questions we can start with. Do you only have to be a female or can you be a male midwife?
So you can be a male midwife, you can be a non-binary midwife, you can be any kind of midwife you like. We have 8 male midwives in Aotearoa practicing at the moment, and they are some of the most sought after and beloved midwives in the entire profession. We have some amazing non-binary midwives. Many of them are senior lecturers and professors at different schools, and they're really cool people.
That's so cool. It's only 8 in New Zealand. Hopefully there'll be some more in the future as well.
Oh, definitely. Love them.
One of the questions that we did get is kind of what's the workload like? Like how much work do you need to do?
I'm not going to lie, it's a lot. So, first year is not too bad. You've only got about 400 hours of practical to cram in. So it's not a lot. There is the biology paper is the big one. And so if you're even a little bit wobbly in biology, get tutoring, please do it soon. There's usually about 8 to 10 papers you take in first year. Second year, as it currently stands, is massive. The time demands are huge and you have to really work hard. Third year is just cool. You're basically a midwife, but you've got someone looking over your shoulder to make sure you don't screw up. It's a great year. So it's kind of like that final year is the reward for surviving the rest.
So you did talk quite a bit about placements. Could you talk a little bit more about what it's like and what you might be doing at these placements?
Okay, so we've got 2 kinds of placements. You've got your hospital placements or your facility shifts. So that's you turn up, you work on the wards for usually 8 hours, sometimes 12, and you put your skills into practice. And they're just like any other shift work. You turn up, you work with whoever's there on the day, and you go home at the end, and that's that. But then you've got what we call LMC work or lead maternity care. So this is when you're with a midwife in the community. And this means that you are on call. So whenever she gets called out to do anything, maybe it's an assessment because mum hasn't felt her baby move much, or maybe it's a birth. Maybe it's 3 a.m. You still get called. So LMC placement is like, it's what gets most of us going because it feels like real midwifery. Like you're on call, you're working with women in their homes, you're holding their hand when they go into facilities and they're kind of scared about it. It's honestly the coolest thing.
Another live question that we got is the actual job as stressful as the course makes it seem?
Again, I'm not going to lie to you. You are holding 2 lives in your hands. And that's a huge responsibility, but it's also really, really special that people trust you that much. Like this morning, I was in a cesarean section and baby came out and didn't breathe. And so I had to tell that baby to breathe. And I had to work on that baby until they decided that they were going to join us. So that, like, it's a huge responsibility. But I walked away from that family and that baby was breastfeeding beautifully and I made that happen.
I guess that's why the course is so intense because they want you guys to have as much knowledge and confidence in yourselves. So when these scenarios do happen, you do have confidence in yourselves to be able to help both mama and baby as well.
Yeah. And when you first start, everything is scary. Like you go in and you try to take a blood pressure and you're not sure if you're going to be able to do it. And you freak out a little bit. And as you go through the course, you grow your confidence and you grow your skills until you walk out. At the point that I'm at, almost at the end, I was like, okay, baby's not breathing. We're going to make them breathe. It, it just becomes, oh, this is what we're going to do now. And that confidence just really builds over the 3 or 4 years that you do it.
And I guess you could only do that by having practice as well and getting
Absolutely.
involved. So what is the time commitment like each year?
Um, so in the course that I did as a more than full-time course, it was a 1.25 or 1.3 full-time equivalent. So that equals around 50 or 60 hours a week, which is quite a lot. But they are moving it to a true 4-year degree. So that's only 40 hours a week. But those 40 hours aren't Monday to Friday, 9 till 5. You'll do a lot of stuff that's at weird times. I have a true passion for doing night shifts. So I do my hospital shifts between 11 at night and 7 in the morning. Beautiful time to be in the hospital. There's no management. So it will be around about a 40-hour week. But yeah, weird times, real weird times.
I guess that would be quite hard at first to get used to and having to change your schedule quite a bit. One thing I'd be nervous about being on call and sleeping through that alarm. Did you ever have that kind of worry at all?
I am usually really, really good about one thing about midwives, we never have our phone on silent. I've once forgotten to turn my phone off vibrate at night and I got a call about 4 in the morning and my partner's like, wake up, your phone's vibrating off the bed. And so I made it to birth, but oh, I never made that mistake again.
Um, so obviously for a lot of our rural students and students in general, there is sometimes a financial barrier to studying. So can you work and study at the same time, or is there any other scholarships or other supports available for that financial barrier?
We'll start with the scholarship end. The first thing is StudyLink covers all your fees if you are a New Zealander. So that's really good. There are specific scholarships that you can go for if you're Māori, if you're rural, if you're female, and most students are female, so that gives us a pretty good shot at those. So those really help. But many of us work through our first couple of years, and in the 4-year program, you'll probably be able to work through your first 3 years. I worked a little bit in first year. I worked 3 jobs in second year because I didn't have enough study link to cover me because I already have a degree. And I made it work. I was doing 30 hours of work a week and studying, and it was very hard, but I made it happen. Third year, it's not possible. Oh, final year, I should say. It's just not possible because you will do at least 1, probably 2 rotations of between 5 and 9 weeks somewhere away from home. Like my hospital rotation this year was at Middlemore in Auckland. My rural rotation was in the Kapiti Coast. So I couldn't just sort of nip home and work. So you really need to be prepared for, yes, you can work through your first few years, but final year, you have to commit fully to being on call for most of it.
So you did talk quite a bit about in the studies that all the different schools and institutes were covering different areas. How would you find out what school would be covering your area if you did want to do that work from home kind of PJ bottoms Zoom calls?
Yeah. So your best bet is to Google it. You put in your area and School of Midwifery, and it will come up. But basically, unless you're Northland, Auckland, or Taranaki, then it'll be one of the institutes of technology, one of the polytechs. So, yeah, I don't quite know what else to say to that except Google it. Google is your answer to many things.
And so you do talk kind of about being on call and having to travel a bit. Would you recommend having a driver's license to study midwifery? Is that something that's needed?
I wouldn't recommend it. I would say it's essential. You must have at least a restricted license to even apply to the course for most places. Some places require your full license before you start the course. So it is really, really important that you can drive. The only exceptions that I know of to this are Victoria and AUT. They require a restricted but not a full, but you must make a plan to have your full license by your final year.
Do you also need a vehicle as well?
Oh, yes. And it needs to be reliable. You can't be called out to a birth and have your car just fail to start. And you
And
want something that's really economical.
I guess that would be equipment that you'll need not only for your degree, but also your career as well, most likely.
Absolutely, especially if you go into leave maternity care, you're going to put 50 or 60,000 K on your car every year.
So another question that we do get from our registered questions was, do you learn about sonograms?
Are you meaning like ultrasounds?
Yeah.
A little bit. So we don't read ultrasounds ourselves, but we will order ultrasounds and then we will ask people to have their report sent to us. Then we'll read the report and go, oh, that's fine, or oh, this is what the next steps are for you.
So that would be a different degree if you're wanting to do more those ultrasounds and stuff. So
Yeah.
that's not part of the midwifery degree.
No. So the 2 degrees you'd want there, you can either be a sonographer, so actually doing the ultrasounds, which is a pretty cool job, or you can be a doctor that goes into what's it called? Radiology. So that's like a super specialized doctor and they read those ultrasounds.
Awesome. So you do mention that it is quite an intense course, study-wise. How would you recommend to study productively to get those good grades? Do you have any good tips and tricks?
The biggest thing you've got to figure out is how you learn. So for me, if I've written it with my hand, with a pen, then it's in my brain. So I have 3 years worth of handwritten notes on everything. Some people, that's not their thing. Some people do better talking about it. And so for those people, I really, really recommend applying to the university early for a tutor. And then what I find is most effective is you teach the tutor what you need to know, and they kind of go, okay, yes, but you need to tweak your understanding of this a bit. All universities have a peer tutoring service, and I highly recommend it. There are other people who are flashcard junkies, and I have a whole box over there from a flashcard junkie with every single question that could possibly be asked about biology. So it's super important to figure out what the thing is that works for you and use it. Because if you've got a pile of notes in front of you and you're highlighting and none of it makes sense to you, you're not going to get anywhere.
So you also mentioned in midwifery as well that you made quite a few good friends from this course. How do you balance that kind of friends and school study?
It's real different to high school. So the friends you make here are friends you will have for life because you've been through one of the hardest degrees possible and you've done it together and you've succeeded. So the friends that I make here, like we go out for drinks every so often when none of us are on call, or we'll go and cook dinner for each other. Or actually, the most common thing we do is all get together and study because study groups can be incredibly important, not just for learning, but for motivation. Because if you're like, oh, it's not just me that's struggling with this concept, we're all screwed, then it's really kind of reassuring. You're like, it's not just me. We're all having trouble. We can figure this out together.
Another question that we do get quite often around healthcare as well is obviously you are dealing with kind of life and death situations at time. Is there any supports available if you are struggling or if you kind of are having a tough time with some of your studies?
Absolutely. So every university has a counselling service. And as well as that, you have your kaako, your supervising tutor, and you'll debrief with them every week or two. If you have something that happens, like you have an emergency and someone doesn't make it, or something really awful happens, you phone your kaako first thing the next morning, because it always happens at some ungodly hour of the night, and you say, look, this happened and I need to debrief. And they'll spend an hour or two with you debriefing and helping out. Specifically with life and death situations, when someone doesn't make it, the SANS baby loss group are incredible. You reach out to them and go, this happened, and they go, let's meet and talk about it. And I've had a couple of babies not make it in my 3 years, and they were incredible for helping me work through it because it's not my grief, but I grieve. So it's like there is support out there. And if you're ever struggling, there's always tutors or lecturers that you can reach out to and go help. And they will go, right, this is the direction you need to go in to get what you need.
That's really good to know that those supports are available as well, and that you don't have to, that it's not expected of you to just keep it to yourself or to
Never,
just carry on.
never carry it alone.
Yeah. And obviously, it is quite a personal, intimate career with the mum and family that you're working with. How do you find working with the patients and kind of making them feel comfortable during that time? Is that something that you had to practice?
It did take me a while because often I'd be like, I feel awkward because I don't know enough. And then I realized actually these women feel even more awkward. They have no idea. Like they've come into a hospital, for example, they have no idea what's about to be thrown at them. And I can be the one that talks them through it and goes, this is what's happening. This is what's going to happen next. And I will stay beside you. And telling someone, I will stay beside you, honestly, that is a magical phrase.
There's also that kind of stereotype as well about midwifery that you can only really be a midwife if yourself have had children. Is that something that you've experienced within your course or with other students that you've also studied with?
It's bollocks. It's not true. In the course that I've got, we've got one, two, three, yeah, about half of the girls are parents. The other half are not. Of the qualified midwives that I worked with, again, around about half of them are parents. The absolute best midwife that I've ever worked alongside has never been a mum, and she is the most supportive, wonderful midwife. There's also no age requirement. You don't have to be older and have life experience. That's rubbish as well. All you need is passion and drive, and you can do this.
And this is just a question for me because I'm quite curious. Have you ever had anyone faint on you while you're in a delivery or anything like that?
This morning,
Oh no.
I got baby breathing again, and then I noticed that Dad was going down. I was like, "I'm holding your kid, man. I can't pick you up." And he just hit the floor. It was amazing. He's about the fourth or fifth.
Oh wow. And do you have to work quite closely with other midwives or other medical professionals as well, especially in a scenario like that when you've got baby in your arms?
Oh, absolutely. No midwife works completely alone. So in a birth, you will always have at least two midwives in that room because you've got two patients. You've got mama and pappy. So you have got to be able to build good relationships with other midwives. And then we need doctors. Like we desperately need to be able to turn to someone and go, this is out of my scope. This is too much for me. She's bleeding too much, or she's really, really unwell and I need your support. So you really need to be able to build good relationships with doctors as well, which it's sometimes interesting because doctors are weird people.
So some people might be curious about kind of a day in the life of what actually happens. Would you be able to tell us kind of from like when you first get introduced to a mama who's pregnant, what you might be looking for, what you might be checking for, even also after the delivery, what you might be doing with baby for checkups and stuff like that?
So through pregnancy, you spend hours and days learning all the different checks you do, but you're always checking her blood pressure because there are some illnesses that first show up as a raised blood pressure. You're always checking on baby. So while baby's inside, you'll feel mama's belly and figure out exactly where baby is and where they're lying. You'll listen to their heartbeat every time. And then once she's had baby, suddenly you're in two directions at once. You've got to have someone look after mama, make sure she's not bleeding, make sure she has the whenua and it comes out okay in one piece. And then there's another one over with baby, making sure that baby's transitioning to life really well. And then baby checks, you'll do everything. You check whether they've got cataracts in their eyes. You check whether their testes are descended. Like you get really, really good at doing top to toe checks on mama and baby and smashing them out in half an hour flat.
And why is it 6 weeks after the pregnancy that you're still checking in with baby and mama? Why do you need to spend that extra time with them?
So that 6 weeks is kind of the amount of time that it takes for mama's body to go from pregnant to no longer pregnant and back to normal. So that 6 weeks is really key. It's also the first 6 weeks of baby's life are when they figure out how to eat, how to sleep, how to do all the things that babies do. And the biggest problems that babies can have all tend to come up in those first 6 weeks. So if they've got a heart problem or lung problems, things like that, they all come up in the first 6 weeks. So if you're checking on baby really well and checking on mama really well in those first 6 weeks, you're setting them up for a really good life.
Yeah, I saw that in one of your photos. You had baby lying in kind of like a
Oh, and
hammock
the
and
sling. Yeah, so
yeah.
that's weighing baby. Because
That's
we
too wriggly probably to weigh them any other way.
Well, the hilarious thing is that the cheapest way to get good scales is to get fishing scales. And fishing scales have that hook on the end, so you put the baby in a sling and you lift the baby. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And they get really, like, you'll have them lying there, you put them in the sling, and as you start lifting them, they stop screaming and just calm down. It's like
Oh,
it's their favorite place. It's so cool.
oh, it's so nice. I guess it would feel quite weightless for them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
And it's
well,
beautiful rocking as they lift.
mm. So our time is shortly coming to an end, so I thought we might leave it on a nice note. And if you could just tell us a little bit about why you enjoy midwifery, and if you have any more words of wisdom as well for those who are looking forward to studying it or are kind of piquing their head in interest as well.
I became a midwife because the woman who helped me birth my first baby made me believe in myself as a parent and as a person. And that's the power that midwives have. We change lives. So if you want to go for it, like, no lies, it is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. And it is also the most magical. You are helping whānau grow, and it's amazing. If you want to go for it, absolutely. There's no job in the world like it.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your time this evening as well as with your presentation answering our many questions.
No worries.
And yeah, luckily no on calls for this time.
Not today.
um, yeah, perfect. But if anyone does have any follow-up questions as well, if you're watching this recording or if something pops up in your mind, feel free to contact us at Hauora Taiwhenua in the Rural Health Careers, and we can pass them on to Jay, who will be happy to answer them as well. Um,
Always.
Otherwise, yeah, so this webinar is being recorded and it will be posted on our website and YouTube channel. So if you do want to watch back, because obviously there was quite a bit of information, you're more than welcome to do so and utilize it as a resource. But otherwise, thank you all so much for joining us. We hope that this was a great insight into midwifery. And who knows, you might see Jay in the future as well as a possible future midwife. But well, thank you all so much. And ka kite anō.
Ka kite.